It's been more than 6 weeks since Jackson's water woes hit a peak. But at this moment, the city does not have a current plan to cut the chances of another water crisis.
One of our priorities, top priorities, is to update that 97 master plan.
Jackson Public Works Director Thelman Boyd is talking about this 13-year-old water system improvement plan. Take a look at the dates, 1997 to 2009. It says hundreds of thousands of feet of Jackson's brittle cast iron water lines need to be replaced.
I know during Mayor Johnson's administration this time, we'll make sure that we are doing everything we can as far as having a plan in place.
After 13 years, the city has not completed all the upgrades in the plan. More about that in a moment, but first, let's dig into an area with some of Jackson's oldest water lines, downtown.
It was frustrating for everybody downtown.
I sat down with Ty Dinsford of Ty's Restaurant on President Street. He tells me the crisis caused a big speed bump in business.
It affected us in a big way. We lost a lot of revenue, I think, that week.
The source of Dinsford's loss is right under him. Water lines downtown haven't been upgraded since 1926.
It's 84 years. Yeah, I've got, my great-grandparents are 95 years old.
Some of the city's water lines have Dinsford's great-grandparents beat by 5 years.
Of course, it leaves a bad taste in everyone's mouth, and you have to deal with experience something like that.
An experience the city can't guarantee won't happen again. Let's get back to the 1997 master plan. It calls for the city to expand the O.B. Curtis water plant and renovate the J.W. fuel plant. The city got that done at a $74 million price tag. But here's the unfinished business. It says the city should replace more than 809,000 feet of the city's nearly 4 million feet of cast iron water lines. The city spent about $40 million to replace 234,000 feet. 13 years later, 575,000 feet left to go.
The best thing we can do is just be prepared if it happens and continue to seek funding sources to make sure we do some replacements.
Since 1999, the city's taken out $163 million in bonds to upgrade the water system. Jackson residents pay that back in their water bills. That's why the bills increase each year.
The ratepayers pretty much is shouldering as much as they can stand at this point.
They may have to shoulder a bit more if Jackson's water lines are going to get upgraded. Let's take another look at that master plan. It was created at the beginning of Mayor Johnson's first term in 1997, but it was never updated during the 8 years of Johnson's first 2 terms or the 4 years of Mayor Melton's term that followed. Plus, it hasn't been updated since Mayor Johnson started his 3rd term in office last July. Jackson City spokesperson Chris Mims says there's one important part of the plan that needs another look.
Well, primarily what needs to be updated are the cost estimates.
You see, the 1997 estimates indicate it'll cost $76 million to replace the remaining 575,000 feet of water lines. There's no doubt that cost is much higher now.
We are searching for funding mechanisms as we speak.
One funding source, grants.
We are constantly trying to take advantage of any grant opportunities that are available.
There's one federal grant for $25 million the city hasn't quite gotten its hands on. Back in 2007, the Federal Water Resources Development Act authorized $25 million to upgrade Jackson's water system. All the feds needed was a plan from Jackson on how they'd spend the money. That hasn't been turned over. During the height of the water crisis, I asked Boyd about why the city hadn't done it. Is there any reason why a plan hasn't been submitted to use those funds to help repair the water lines?
By the time the money is appropriated, we will have a plan in place to acquire that money.
Now Boyd says the city does have a plan, but it hasn't been turned in.
We do have a plan to spend that money, and at the appropriate time, we'll make sure that that plan gets where it needs to be.
The city also asked the state legislature for funds. They gave Jackson just $2 million. In the meantime, the Public Works Department doesn't have a person that only looks for grants. The city's Deputy Chief Administrative Officer holds that task for the entire city.
We desperately need some outside help as far as grants and things of that nature.
City leaders don't have a whole lot of time to do it. You see, the pipe problems don't just happen in the extreme cold weather. Water lines tend to shift and break at a higher rate than normal in the summer heat, too. And that leaves Jackson residents and business owners on edge.
If anything, we all learned a big lesson from it, and that's prepare yourself where it could happen tonight.
Now, our water crisis investigation isn't over. Tomorrow on Fox 40 News at 9, I take a look at vacancies in the Public Works Department. I'll examine how that could have slowed down the process of fixing pipes. Now, while I work on that, head to my601.com. There you'll see part 1 of the water crisis investigation. Plus, take a look at some of the open records we want from the city. Travis.